No, it's gotta have the click. It's gotta have the click and the clack. It's patented. It's the signature thing. It's what we do. It's what nobody understands. Nobody gets it. Nobody understands. That's why people buy our things because of the click and the clack. That's it.
Do you know what the sentence is for multi-million-dollar stock fraud?
What are you doing?
I'm doing it all.
You guys have no idea how to run a company.
What's happening, man? I created this entire market.
You said they were the best engineers in the world. I said they're the best engineers in Canada.
And today we have Blackberry. We're riding the wave of both motivation on my part, but also, funny enough, based on true story films that are they're cranking them out from Hollywood, just one after the other. Honestly, it was like Tetris, then Air, now Blackberry. Sadly, this movie doesn't seem to have gotten nearly as much marketing as Air did. You can tell by the thumbnail and the title, but this is how you do it. Blackberry is a film directed by a Matthew Johnson, who, in a very, I always consider this one of two things when you both direct and star in your film. We'll get into that in a minute, but Matthew Johnson has been an actor and filmmaker for many, many years. This is only his second full-length feature film. The last film he did was in 2013. So 10 years ago, he did an hour-and-a-half flick called The Dirties. Did I do that right? The Dirties? I don't know. He's directed before, but I think he's acted more than he's directed. Now, if you don't know, Blackberry is about the Blackberry phone. And if you're a certain age bracket, you won't even know what the hell I'm talking about. I have just enough knowledge. I have a father who's always been a very corporate businessman type of deal. So when I was growing up, I believe when the Blackberries were a thing, I was still but a fledgling child. My mother couldn't afford one, I don't think, but my father certainly could. So he, for his business stuff, I distinctly remember he had at least one Blackberry, and those things were everywhere. And then I just remember they suddenly just stopped being everywhere, and then everybody started talking about iPhone, and I never really gave much thought into it. But then this movie came along, and it's the story of the creation of the Blackberry phone, device and all that, and takes place during that time period, follows the creators, the people that were involved, the rise and fall, and that's the movie. And the trailer looked great to me, and I was very interested, and then a friend of mine saw it and said it was really good, and I was like, okay, well, I was already going to watch it, so here we go. I knew for a fact who one of the stars was, but as soon as I saw this guy, the guy who was one of the two main founders and creators of Blackberry and all that, I heard his voice and I saw him. I knew who it was. None of my friends knew who the hell I was talking about. I thought I was going crazy. I forgot his name, had to look it up, but Jay Baruchel, Baruchel, that's how you say it? Jay Baruchel is a name that I never committed to memory, but you hear his voice and you gotta know, this guy's been acting since 1998. He's been around for a minute. Most notably, I would debate, the voice of Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon. This is Hiccup. Come on, you would recognize that voice anywhere. And if you need an actual face to kind of put in your mind, I suppose another one of his more memorable roles, he's one of the main characters in This Is the End, the stoner Seth Rogen, James Franco apocalypse film. He's one of the main guys. He's in that too. There's so much more that he's in, and some deep cuts what is it, The Wizard's Apprentice or whatever the Nicolas Cage movie was that I enjoyed. Opposite, his partner in the film, Matthew Johnson, he kind of gives me Andy Samberg vibes, if I'm being honest, which is a good thing. I love Andy Samberg, Lonely Island for life. But the one that you definitely would know, and I think it's hilarious, the makeup and the receded hairline they give him in this film. Glenn Howerton, who one of these days, I promise I will sit down and watch it, because I've never fully watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but if you know Glenn from anything, his infamy came from there. Dangerously good at playing people that are angry or borderline psychopaths or just psychotic, but don't want to get too much into the cast, but do want to give quick shout outs. Love to see my boy Sun Won Cho. Love you. I love to see him get more and more roles. And of course, everybody has a soft spot for the Princess Bride himself, Carrie Elwes, who is just so great at playing smarmy business assholes. Funny that I saw this almost right after I saw Air, because this does a similar thing that Air does, but a lot better. This film is very entertaining, it's very good, and surprisingly informative. I never knew the story of Blackberry. This was so well shot and well paced and well acted and informative and in the right creative ways and all this, that I now know like the story, the rise and fall. I funny enough know like a lot of the mechanics about it, the corporate angle, the public commercial angle, like the whole who was CEO and co-CEO and who signed off on this, and the illegal stock manipulation that was happening to get people to join the team. I learned so much, and I was so entertained by this film. It was great. I'm not smart enough to work in the tech industry. It would seem this is the way my life has gone. One of my friends I went to go see it with has worked in tech, and from what everybody that has worked in tech says, is this film is bitingly accurate. It's a great like bit of satire mixed in there, representation of the industry, how it was, how it develops, how it still plays to this day. It's funny because the way they filmed this, it's almost like, I use the term like Office-esque, in terms of how a lot of that deadpan comedy goes, and how a lot of this film, it's like, and they even said it I think in behind the scenes, but it's shot from like far away in some shots, and they'll zoom in across an office or across a room, or from upstairs or down a hallway or something. A lot of the actors were like, oh, it was really easy to act in this because the camera oftentimes wasn't even in the same room as they were. And yet you would think, you worry that when you zoom in on somebody, you lose a lot of that quality control and focus. I don't suffer from motion sickness, but I don't think it ever delved into that area. I thought it was still stabilized and shot well, but in a unique, creative-ish way, where it's almost like I felt like we were genuinely outsiders a lot of the time, looking in on these, like a fly on the wall in a way, looking in on these meetings and these conversations. If I hadn't said it already, all the actors do a killer job, especially Jay Baruchel, Matthew Johnson, and Glenn Howerton, our core three of the cast. Glenn is just, he's a guy that you love watching get angry, and he plays genuine just frustration and anger and just almost like Napoleon syndrome so well, and he plays it so well in this film too. And honestly, it's one of the biggest highlights of the film, is just like watching these characters portrayed by these actors on screen. A lot of their reactions, a lot of character reactions in this movie are what are some of the funniest, most engaging parts. I have very, very, very little negative to say. If I had to pick something apart, I loved the first two acts. Third act, I mean, it's when it's the fall of Blackberry, right? So, there's certain character arcs that happen and certain things that, it's just watching a ship that is going to sink, and so you kind of feel bummed out about it. I thought there was some mild pacing issues, like very, very, very mild. Like the third act, I'm just like, okay, I get it, it's crumbling, and just kind of, and I felt like they drawed that out a little bit, just in spots here and there, not enough for me to be genuinely upset over. And then this is more of a nitpick. It's, a film is good if I'm having a struggle, and I don't really have cons, but just more nitpicks and gripes. But I feel like only one character really had a character arc, and it's Jerry Baruchel's character, and his arc wasn't even like one of of a redemptive nature or anything. It's just kind of his rise and fall from glory and power as his character kind of turns to the dark side, more or less. Aside from him, all the other characters are, which I guess this is a good thing, right? Is they're all consistent, and they all stay true to their own natures, and small deviations here and there, but overall they stay true to themselves, and it's part of what causes the downfall. But it was just fun and entertaining to see like these two in their like little startup company trying to like revolutionize phones and how we used phones in the tech industry. And they did. For a while, iPhone wasn't even a thing. It was like Blackberry and Palm Pilot and all these different things, and that was crazy. I loved that. I had old flip phones and phones that you had the full click-clack keyboard and whatnot, and the fact that you could like scroll through, and then the way they were able to like capitalize on unused electronic highway internet real estate to figure out how to like get emails and messages sent at no additional cost. It paved the way for when Apple came in and then just like steamrolled and then just dominated the market to a degree where maybe the day will happen where the phone and smartphone industry is revolutionized again. But I don't know. Like, I'd be very surprised, and I'm curious to see how, like, short of implants in your damn skull or eye or something. I mean, it was That was the big kahuna right there, and has been for a while. Granted, there's also the whole dark side of that, which is that people paint Steve Jobs as this borderline prophetic figure, when really he just he capitalized off the actual labor being done by, one, the actual engineers who made this shit possible, and two, all the, child and foreign labor. But putting aside those dark undertones and coming back up to here, this film was fantastic. You know what? By the end of the year, this might be one of my favorite films. I didn't over the moon love it as much as I did Everything Everywhere All at Once, or The Batman, or Puss in Boots, or something like that, which are three wildly different films to make a comparison to for Blackberry. But all things considered, when I sat down to actually review this film, I only had those two very mild, small complaints/gripes. This film succeeds in exactly what it set out to do. It was very entertaining, very informative, well acted, well shot. It was just a very good movie for a based on a true story film, seeing the rise and fall of this, and it pertains to, a generation that I know enough where I can have an appreciation for that story being told. So for all those reasons, and honestly probably way more, I would safely give Blackberry I give it a low 5 out of 5, a low 5 out of 5. It's near perfection. It's for what it is, between what it is and how it executes all of that, and my own entertainment. I mean, it was a damn near perfect time. I would very much like to watch it again. I'd very much like to show people who I think would be interested in the film. It's not going to be a film for everyone. It has a certain style of comedy that maybe everyone won't like. If you don't care about any of this tech industry stuff, or smart, the creation of smartphones back in the day, or it's not everybody's cup of tea. It's not everybody's vibe. It's not a film that I would say you have to watch this before you die. But I would say if you can catch it in theaters and any of this sounds enticing to you, go for it, do it, watch it. I recommend it, or at the very least stream it when it comes out. I wouldn't be surprised if I end up buying this one for my own personal collection back here. But that's all I gotta say about Blackberry. Stay tuned for the next episode or whatever movie I review. And goodbye, travelers.